Blessed love and respect, this is Roots Diary, where I'll be sharing stories from my personal journal written between 1998 and 2010. Walk with me through the journey becoming Nazizi, the rise to fame, the losses, heartbreaks, experiences, triumphs, and a look into personal, never before shared stories of people I have met and who have influenced me to becoming the person I am today. Walk with me through my journey of dreams, heartbreaks, loss, music, and stardom. Roots Diary. Roots Diary is a story about my life. I wrote a journal between 1996 and 2010. It was my best friend. I wrote about everything, especially days when I was really depressed or when things were going really well. So here are my diaries that I wrote between 1996 to 2010, and I'm going to be sharing stories from here with you guys, stories I've never shared with anybody. And you might be asking, why would I want to share my personal stories? Well, after being a celebrity for about 23 years now, I realize people think you have such a great life, you've never had any challenges, and you didn't even have to work hard to get where you're going. Well, I, just like any other person, had a lot of dreams, some broken, some, inspiring, and some just, made me feel like giving up with my life. So I'm going to be sharing the Roots Diary with you, and here is my story. If you are going to read this diary, read it with pride and joy, because you're not reading about anybody's personal life, but someone very special. There are no lies or make-up stories in here, but 100% real life stories. And since you are reading it without my knowledge, please be ashamed of yourself, and I'm gonna put a curse on your eyes for reading my personal business. Thank you, the owner. So that warning is from the first page of this journal, and you can see I have like Nas scribbled and then the warning. So this journal starts in 1996 June, and it goes all the way to the year 2000. And this journal is really cool because it's the beginning of Nazizi, and it's not always bright, it's sometimes dark. And yeah, I'm going to be sharing from this journal first. So that's 96 till the year 2000. And that warning that I just read for you, I think it was specifically for Firoz, because I will tell you a story about Firoz in this journal. It's a very interesting story and a very embarrassing one. But I think when I wrote that warning, when you're writing your personal stuff as a teenager, I was 15 years old, by the way. You feel like people are going to take your top secrets, or it's like FBI, CIA classified information. And so I wrote that warning so that if anybody took my diary, which of course happened, that when they read it, they would feel embarrassed for reading it, which never happened. Anytime someone got my diary, they would blackmail me. But yeah, so I have a couple of more diaries, as I said, they're right here behind me. And I'm going to be sharing on Roots Diary stories from there. This is a very hard time for me, and my life is not exactly a life. I'm stressed out by everything and everyone, and I don't see a point of living anymore. No one keeps promises anymore, and the stress becomes worse every day. This weekend, we had a football tournament and we were fourth. I cried because I knew that football was my only hope, but that is also gone. I wonder where my life is heading to. Everyday problems, and I wonder, do I have to go through this? I try my hardest, but my hardest doesn't seem to matter to me or anyone. So I chose that page from February 1997 as the page to start with, because it's a very sad page. And I think it's very important to remember that Nazizi wasn't always positive, happy, strong, and everything that everyone calls me. And, when I was younger, I feel like I was the total opposite. And I think from sharing that page with you, you'll see a little bit of what I was going through. Now, the funny thing about that page, even when I was reading it, right? Like, I literally wanted to die because of football. Basically, like my life was ending because football, soccer was my life. And we came fourth. And in the page, I'm going to, of course, share a screenshot of the page with you. I scribble out last and then put fourth. So to me, it's like fourth to me was last in my mind in football, right? So it's really interesting for me to read that, because even when I read that, I'm like, wow, 15-year-old Nazizi's dream was to be an international soccer player. Funny, right? And that was all I thought about. So I would wake up, I would train. So training has been a big part of my life before music. I would wake up, I'd play football. I had like all my pocket money would go to my soccer boots and stuff like that. And then I would play in tournaments, and it was so important for me to come at least in the top 3. And if I never did, it was super depressing for me. So reading that page was super interesting, because I was like, I was going through such a dark time, you know, and I even say there's no point of living anymore. And as a parent right now, I'm thinking, wow, is that what my son is going to be going through? Because he's a total soccer fan. And I'm wondering, is that where his spirit of I can't take loss comes from? Because I never want to lose. That's one thing I've had from the very beginning. And I think that's one thing that inspired me to go to all those talent shows and just prove everybody wrong. Like when people said, no, Naz, you know, you can't do it, I would always push. But I only find that out later on in my life. I never knew this when I was younger. To me, losing was like the end of the world. Like, I know some of us still struggle with this till now as grown-ups. Like when you lose something or when you're not good at it, you feel like you failed, you're really hard on yourself. I realized that I was very hard on myself from a very, very young age. So this is the kind of stories I'm going to be sharing with you on Roots Diary. And this is the first episode that I'm sharing with you. And of course, I'm going to have so many more. The journal, by the way, has stuff. For example, I have friends who shaved their dreadlocks, and they're stapled as a memory in my journal. And I have tickets. I have all sorts of things from Carnival, Simba Saloon. And I would just take, you know, different tickets and different stuff, pictures of my friends, and then put them in. So yeah, man, I'm going to be sharing more stories from Roots Diary with you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, tell me what you think. Is there anything about your past that you think you've learned from yourself? Or are there things that you'd forgotten about your past, and when you sit back and look back, you're like, wow, was that how I used to think before? How much have I changed? It's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about today. So wearing these now, it's kind of funny that my life was once really defined by these things. Like, this is all I wanted. So I had got a couple more, but these are the ones that have survived 20 something years later. But yeah, it's kind of weird, you know, but honestly, at the same time, I'm really super grateful for these, because they pushed me through whatever depression I was going through as a teenager. If it was real or imagined, we're going to find out. And yeah, they really meant a lot to me during that time. And I know you guys didn't know football was a big part of my life, because probably by the time you guys found out who Nazizi was, I was probably overweight, and soccer or any sports didn't look like me, right? But yeah, I was captain of the football team, captain of the basketball team as well at some point. And this was my life. But it's funny how when I wear these right now, I'm proud of them. I really am. But after reading that page, I don't see why I wouldn't want to die for football. This is 20 years down, and I'm thinking, how many teenagers feel like I felt in that page and actually give up, you know, saying, I don't feel like living anymore, and actually give up and never find out how dynamic life is and how it could change totally, and how dreams and visions change in so many years. But yeah, that's my story about my love for football. And we're going to be I'm sure there's going to be so many pages about football and disappointments on Roots Diary. Roots Diary.